Hi everyone, and welcome to the Odd Ducklings. This is day 3, supposedly, day 3 of the 7-day challenge that I'm having this week. Let's call it a week. Let's say that I succeeded. We'll do a summary when I finish my 7 episodes, so you can wait for that if that's of any interest to you. Regardless, this episode today, we're gonna do my favorite thing, and we're gonna roast the person that I like to roast the most, which is hi everyone, and welcome to Odd Ducklings. Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to an introduction to hi everyone. Today I actually want to myself. So this episode is mostly about failure and how we fail upwards. I think this is something that a lot of neurodivergent people, especially in the work environment, kind of grew to be very afraid of. I am, at the very least, not much of an exception. And a lot of time that leads to hesitating to do things or doing things a bit more slowly or the be-all and all procrastination. Sometimes the best of my ability could take a year. So a while back, when I still had like only 3 episodes in, when I was still pretty small, I'll say that was about a year ago, I decided to make an episode because I kept getting feedback and I loved taking the feedback and kind of applying it. When I say I loved it, I also mean like absolutely hated it and I was terrified of it. I still am. Every time I get feedback, I adore it and I am shaken to my core, I guess. That would be how you say it. If we're talking about failing upwards, if we're talking about learning and improving and seeing that improvement, I hope that when you see this video, you'd kind of understand that there's been quite a process that's been going on with me, even with the break that we've had. And there's quite a process that we've done to get to this point, means we will get better. We are going to use my old self to kind of cover the subject of why talking about failure is so important. We are going to roast me as we're doing it to leverage on the fact that we can enjoy past failures to the point that, it's just funny. It was dumb. This is Daria from the future. Back to you, Daria, from the past. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Odd Ducklings. I speak so slow. I hope I don't speak as slow now. I do watch videos like 2 times the speed, so could be that it's just a me thing. But I'm having a hard time listening to myself at that speed. Today, I actually wanted to talk to you all about why I talk about my failures. Tell us. I've had this being said to me that some of my posts seems apologetic, and with that in mind, I just want to say I'm not apologizing for anything. Nor shouldn't you. Despite it not being to everybody's taste, it is quite intentional. When I started this podcast, I knew a lot less than I know today. So much to say about everything that we've just seen, to be honest. Talking about failure is something that came to be because I got some feedback regarding talking negatively about previous episodes. I even had like a small video that I made for social media where I said like, okay, so I did X, Y, Z and it was pretty bad. And honestly, I had a few interviewees that I didn't communicate with well, and I felt really bad. I felt like I should have done this better. So this is kind of where it started from. Today will be a short episode. In today's episode, I'll be mostly talking about why I advertise failure. Why do you advertise failure? And I want to start with the fact that it's absolutely okay if you don't agree with how I'm doing it, and if you think I might have jumped the boat a bit too soon. I don't use idioms that well, so sorry if this one's not correct. As for the last part, where I don't even say the idiom right, English is not my first language, which is always that, but I have this thing that we call idioms. Basically, whatever idiom you have, but I will always find a way to kind of twist it a tiny bit. Like rock the boat is kind of a normal one, but I have a few. You might hear some more of them here and there, so I don't know, I think it's fun. And we do call them idioms because they are a bit idiotic. All right, let's see. But I did want to share my 2 cents about this because I've had some interesting conversations, and I think it's worth acknowledging that there is a decision here that I've made to publish a podcast despite knowing that I don't have all the answers. It's not 100% professional, and I am not a company. And I find that due to the fact that I'm just a person going through a project and a learning curve, this is something that is valid. I mean, that being said, I actually have 3 reasons as to why I think this approach is the right approach. And, you know, whether you agree or not, it's absolutely okay. So, wow. Yeah, I don't know what's up with me trying to kind of keep saying, it's okay if you don't agree with me. It's okay if you don't do that. And it's like, this sounds apologetic still. I don't know if I would say it that many times if I was recording anything today. I think a lot of what I'm saying here is very much not to the point. When I was editing this, I tried to kind of remove some of it, not always successfully, as you can see, but taking with a grain of salt. With a lot of the things in this episode are me just not finding the right words, so I just keep blabbering. I think that's kind of an ADHD thing, or at least it's my thing, where there's silence or like something doesn't completely register. You don't exactly know what you're going to be saying, so you say something anyway. I'm getting better, I think. Editing things is easier, and it's easier for me to kind of find the words. So keep going. If you keep staying with me and going through the motion, I would love that. But if that feels like too much for you, at some point this podcast will be a lot better. I will still be awkward old me, but yeah, that's okay. That's completely up to you. You do not have to listen to this content, and I hope you do, but despite being welcomed, this is not mandatory. Let's start with number one, as you do. As you do. First reason why I am willing to make mistakes publicly, talk about them, get feedback, and make improvements. Sad. And I think if you come from the world of tech, you kind of already know where I'm going. And it kind of carries a very, very big header of being agile, or the agile methodology. So the idea of having agility within a product, being able to make multiple iterations. Beware, I'm going to say that like a billion times, unless I edited it well. And in a more direct way. The reason I find this to be something that I feel very strongly about is because, if you haven't known, I worked as product manager as well as a product designer and leading product design teams. Yes. I find the agile system, the methodology, to be really one of the best ways to approach growth and to make sure that what you're making is the most relevant product for the people who need it. So a bit of insight here, because we are talking about what I did wrong at the beginning and how we grow from that. I started at this point to explore the idea of failing upwards. You've noticed that I really zoomed into like my experience and why I did things and what I like because of my experience as a professional. And I think that's one of the things that as I grew, I kind of let go of. And it's not because I'm not very proud of what I do. I really am. But I felt like, to an extent, a lot of times, like here, when I did this was actually the opposite of me trying to grow and be a person that learns from their mistakes. So I tried to hype my ego by talking about my experience and things that I'm proud of, to kind of make it easier to talk about the fact that I did fail and I did end up, I don't know if hurting people, but making mistakes that could have hurt people. And that's where I kind of go into a tantrum about waterfall and agile. And I do think it's interesting. Let me know if you do. I tried to minimize it as I was editing it. I do absolutely love this subject. So it's not accidental that I spent so long trying to give it a good kind of perspective. Okay, let's keep going. In contradiction to agile, basically what you see in old school companies is what we call waterfall. In waterfall, what you would do is that you would define all of the steps that you need to be going through from step A to B, releasing a product and giving it away to customer or just like publishing it. And once you've reached point B, there's no more iteration. You're just going to have another waterfall. There's not a lot of space for improvement in the middle. The bottom line is you move from point A to point B. Point B, it's done and you set it out. What agile means is short iterations that you can release as soon as possible, learn
Again
from,
and again and again and again and again.
review
and
what
again,
you can
and again,
improve,
and again.
and then send it back the next time better, in a better position. Now that,
Never-ending story.
just to make it absolutely clear,
Why
still
did I
needs to be
zoom?
a viable product. It needs to be in working order. It needs to bring value. And whenever we are producing a feature or we're producing a podcast or whatever it is that we are doing in the Agile method, we want to make sure that what we put out there is covering what we call minimum viable product. I kind of like the Agile methodology. I come from the world of tech. I've been working in product teams for about 10 years or so. And
There I go again.
I've had a lot of companies use different methodologies. Mainly, we're talking about Scrum or Agile or, sadly, Waterfall. And
I didn't edit
in a
it
nutshell,
down enough.
of all the methodologies that I've seen, there's one that really aims to create improvement, to create communication that iterates and makes everything, in my opinion, better. Of course, with companies, it's not always an option, but as an individual person, I can definitely afford to make my own choice about how I run this nonprofit podcast. So with that in mind,
please.
just in a nutshell, what Agile means is, yes, I need to define a product that brings value. And through some iteration and some testing, I reach a position where I can release. It's not perfect because perfect is the enemy of done, especially for people like me who are a bit too perfectionistic for their own good.
And
so
can't say the word.
When I actually had to go and
Perfectionistic.
define this process of how I'm going to do a podcast about neurodiversity, about mental health, about careers, I thought it was kind of a perfect approach to define the goals of what is the minimum viable product and what are the things that need to improve with time. And that's how I kickstarted this. For me, the idea of Agile is making sure that whatever you do put out there, it brings value. And in my opinion, and to the best of my ability, what I've tried to do with every post, with every episode that I've done is make improvement, bring value, collect feedback, learn, and repeat.
I'm going to stop here for a second because honestly, all of this blah, blah, blah about agile methodology, as much as I loved this and I would have an entire night of beer with you over that conversation and the different kind of methodologies and how we abuse it or use it in a system. I love it, but I hope you got some value from it. It doesn't really make sense in this context. Sorry, not sorry of sort. I hope it made some sense. That being said, everything that's being repeated here again and again and again is basically saying, as you fail, part of being able to fail upwards is managing what it is that you're actually doing, realizing the source of the mistake. For that, you need data, you need to be looking at it, you need to be judgmental towards what you do, you need to make sure that you are okay with saying I did wrong here or there or whatever. And only when you do that can you fail upwards. Can you use your failures to not go downhill with the ball, but to have the ball rolling and become bigger and have you become a snowball instead of, just falling down the drain. So I love it. I like the idea. I think, let me know what you think, but I hope the new episodes are a bit better than this and that I speak a lot faster than this and that I don't look as tired, even though now is absolutely way too late to be having this conversation. I am tired. But I look so sad and it makes me sad. But I do agree with myself. I find that a lot of what I say is very meaningful to me, just how I say it and how long it takes me to say every sentence, because I really try to say the right words in the right order. And I even fail at that because I'm so bad. And I think part of my growth was to, start singing quite a bit to kind of improve my ability to say words. Still not great, I know, but also kind of accept But if I said something wrong or if I didn't say it perfectly, it's fine as long as it's good. It needs to have some sort of a flow, and it can improve. Don't get me wrong. I'm aware that it can improve. But yeah, I hope I improved on that. Let me know, because as I'm gonna say again and again and again, your feedback is like the one thing that this is going to be for me, and hopefully what you're gonna take from this is the fact that we all grow from sharing mistakes and talking about them. All right, let's keep going.
And in a nutshell, that is agile, and that's what I'm trying to do. Now, you see that and you say, but couldn't you have improved XYZ? And maybe. I don't know what XYZ is, honestly. So you can say, but that doesn't excuse why you put out your mistakes, right? Because, I mean, you can be agile at your own home. Nobody needs to know. But agile kind of loses
You could stay
its
in the
touch
closet
when it's lacking on data and feedbacks and real life experiences. Because the bottom
So
line
you need
is,
to do things to
I
get
could
things
refine
done.
this for as long as I want. And when I send it out, there will still be something to learn. So I can send this out now, bring value, learn, reiterate, maybe even fix one of the episodes where the sound is not very good. I'd rather have something out than wait until I'm in a good position, then take it out and be very frustrated, because I either spend a week, 2 weeks per episode, and then I have another cycle of 2 weeks or 1 week, depending on what I choose for that specific iteration.
So the funny thing about this one is I literally did that for the past half a year, right? I literally spent 6 months sitting on all of the interviews that are still not out. I did everything that I'm stating here. This is me not roasting my past self. This is me roasting my current self. I have like 10 videos that I just need to edit, but I haven't done this. And yeah, I'm sorry, past me. You were so smart and I didn't listen. Oh, I'm doing it now. We're having a week, right? But I am publishing things a lot faster and forcing myself to find good ways. And I mean, I have my own excuses. Maybe I'll make an episode just for excuses. But I did want to, like, if I'm here roasting my past self, having the dead eye look and the sad, sad face, at least I can be honest and say that she had something right in what she was suggesting, and I was just not doing it. All right. So apparently she has some smart things to say. Maybe I should listen. But God, it's so slow, and she looks so sad. Okay. Let's keep going.
3 months, for example. And at the end of 3 months, I've learned nothing from people who are not immediately near me, have been through my process, have read everything, have seen everything. I've not necessarily cracked all the details about how technically things are working. And it's just going to be a lot more frustrating because I did not bring value. And I'm basically going to have to either live with something that I'm not happy with or go back and fix everything.
So smart.
What I like about the agile methodology is that I could give you an episode or two and I could immediately take insights. I could look at the statistics of how people interacted with it, how they interacted with my posts. I can learn how people reacted to different types of questions, of phrasings, of graphics. I could do all of that, but I cannot do all of that if I sit at home and keep it to myself. And I'm trying to take you along with me for the ride because honestly, I think it's fun.
So, one thing I kind of remembered just today, I got a pretty painful feedback. I still need to respond to Lindsay. Lindsay is a lady whose episode is still in my drawer waiting to be edited. And she's a wonderful individual. I still need to verify with her. And she wrote to me regarding the previous episode with some feedback. And here comes this point. Your feedback and your comments and all of that is brilliant and it really helps. But also, I think it's fair to mention I'm human. It takes me a second to kind of take in the feedback. I do have a lot of
imposter syndrome, maybe. It's hard for me to take feedback. I see the value of it. I absolutely adore feedback and I'm terrified of it. So if you do leave a feedback and I don't answer quickly enough, don't take it personally. I will definitely respond. It's not something that will never happen. And if I haven't responded to you yet for something, I'm very sorry. I do need to kind of catch up with a lot of things that happened. I just really wanted to stop and say thank you to Lindsay because, A, she's precious and she's wonderful, but also be a Lindsay. Leave a comment. Tell me what I'm fucking up. I hope I can say fucking up. If not, I will definitely mute it. Keep going. I think talking about this process is something that you can help improve. You can help me shape this so that this could be something that you like. And if I took 3 months to make the same product, to make the same 3 episodes, I would have no external feedback. I would have no data points. I would have only this limited amount of information that's within my household and friend circle. And that means that whatever I would put out there might be a better product, but it will not be a better product for you. True. So with that being said, I hope that the third and the fourth and all the episodes coming after that will get better and better, and they will be more to your taste. And if you feel like that's not yet the case, this is me saying once again, the entire cycle is I put it out there to the best of my ability, but within the limitation of time. So sometimes the best of my ability could take a year, and we're not doing that. We're doing it within this limitation. And then I'm also very much enjoying your feedback. And some of you have already done this, and it has been
Thank you, Lindsay.
So beneficial for me. So thank you. Anybody who's already done this, everybody who's already contacted me, gave me a bit of something to think about. I appreciate it so much. It helps me grow and it helps me get better. And in the future, I would love more. Just, feedback, send it my way. So the first one is agile. What do you think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think you'd rather have it as a waterfall? Or do you have any other suggestion of how I should manage this? Let me know.
All right.
Moving on. All right. So we reached reason number 2. And it kind of builds up on the previous reason. Because if we talked about agile and how multiple iterations, admitting when things were not perfect or when they could have been better or different, and basically not only making a better product, but making a better product for the person who's going to consume it, who's going to take more value from it, that being you guys. So with that in mind,
editing.
What we're looking at here is easier to explain by saying, what are the values of this podcast?
Do we have it?
Because the whole idea of having a podcast to talk about mental health, to talk about neurodiversity, to talk about careers and work-life balance, is to talk about hardships we went through, mistakes we've done, things that didn't go according to plan, not necessarily by anyone's fault. But we don't always apply this to our public figure now, do we? And I think if we state that this podcast is here to talk about this, to openly say we are human.
I don't think I managed to kind of say this well. So basically, this point is very much focusing on the part of mental health that is admitting to a process. Basically, letting yourself be a part of a process. And within that, we're going back to the idea of failing upwards. That means we need to try things, we need to experience things, we need to ask for feedback, and we need to be open to the idea of getting feedback. Even if we set a way for us to do this, like me saying it's gonna take me a minute because it hurts in a sense, even if it's not a great feedback. So if we're talking about mental health, admitting that we are making mistakes as professionals especially is something that can improve our mental health because it lets us carry this in a more professional way and become better and ask for advice. But it also helps the environment and whatever it is that we're building as a community, because we're building a system where it's something that people talk about and people learn from each other's mistakes. So I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Maybe I'm still using too many words. Maybe I should let past self kind of
we feel things, we make mistakes. Why can't we say this about making a podcast?
Yeah.
Because I'm not making this product for me. I'm making it for a potential community of people who agree with these values, who want to not be afraid to talk about mistakes because that's the only way we grow, and not be afraid to talk about solutions. So I don't need to hide behind just forums for podcasters to look for solutions. I have everybody who wants to find solution, and not all the solutions are podcast related, right? Some of you might say, this and this content wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't what I was expecting. And that would be super helpful.
Definitely give us more ideas to content that you want. I think we keep saying this, especially like me and Katie. We keep mentioning like, if you want to talk about this, or if this brings you an idea. Yeah, so I don't remember if I'm touching this again here, so I just wanted to highlight. Fill the comments. I know that not as many people are watching. If you can, stop, leave me a comment. Tell me what the next episode you'd like to hear about as a professional, as a neurodivergent, as a person walking the universe and feeling like being neurodiverse is a part of your existence. What would you like to be talking about? All right, let's keep going.
Accumulated with seeing the statistics of people's behavior and reaction to other content I put out there, I can make an assumption. I can go on something, I can try something new, and you can be there with me. You can make that impact. So we're building a community based on this value of it's okay to not be perfect. Or for lack of a better word, I'm using perfect, but it's okay to put something out there that could be refined.
I look as sad as the subject.
But it needs to bring value. I hope I've achieved that much. I mean, I'm sending this message out to you. If you feel like I could bring more value, if there's anything specific you want me to be bringing to the table, I'd be more than happy to hear you out. If I'm kind of just trying to summarize everything I just said, it all comes down to if I have a certain value and a certain expectation of talking openly about hardships and mistakes and talking openly about how things can be solved and what are the tools and what are the ways to approach these things to be a better person? What better way do I have to do that than to actively do that? You are coming with me on this process of reiterating on the voice that this podcast has. You are a part of this, at the moment, community that helps shape a certain statement to the world that says, it's okay to not do well as long as you can take the ownership and you can take the feedback and you can work on that. And if we're saying that when it comes to mental health and when it comes to handling yourself as in your career, I'm definitely saying that on my personal project that I feel very, very strongly about.
What the hell are some of these sentences? I think I was really exhausted making this episode. So I am exhausted now and I'm having a hard time phrasing like everything or anything. But some of these phrases here are, I'm sorry. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say because it doesn't English. And if I haven't said it before, not my mother tongue. So excuses. I have excuses.
I hope it's clear. But what I'm saying is we are not just this pretty picture that we put on Instagram or TikTok or social media. We are complex people and we go through processes. And especially in my world of product, it's way more interesting. It's way more endearing. And well, if you are a part of my process, you get to say, right? You get to be a part, you get to be a community. This is with your feedback just as much your product as it is mine. And that's what we can do.
That's true, actually.
Not just with this podcast, but in general. If we share the process with other people, we can make this process something that's a bit more united. All right. And on to the next and last reason. And as you've noticed,
with the way my brain kind of works, they all kind of
Sort of works.
tie in together into, I don't know, a tapestry of sort. And the last one is no different. So the last, third reason why I share my mistakes. All of these reasons kind of make a big tapestry. We separate them because
Did I just leave it
they
twice?
have an identity
I
of
think
their
they can
own.
cut it.
But in a
Oh my god,
nutshell,
tapestries.
you can't do one without the other. If I kind of continue from where I stopped regarding this being about values and about what this podcast is trying to communicate, about not being afraid to talk and learn from our mistakes, and the more publicly, the better.
Yeah, I
then
agree.
the last one is the point of, and not be ashamed of it.
Sort of touched on
And
it.
it's one of the main values that I hope we can talk about in this podcast in general.
I knew this was coming, so I didn't straight on said it to the T, but I really love this. Like, then there's like one last point, and that is, do not be ashamed, because I think the only way, and I'm gonna quote this again and again, failing upwards, being like a person that learns from their mistakes. You have like the book of Kaizen here behind me, which is talking about continuous growth. And I think not being ashamed to do mistakes, because the only people who do something are the people who make mistakes. I think that's a great statement. Maybe she even did it better than me. I love it. I'm referring to her as she. She doesn't feel like me. There's so much that happened in the past year. She looks, I don't know, very different to what I feel with myself today. And maybe that's part of the growth. And have you seen like the background? I have these two like Harry Potter sigils. You can only see one of them. That's actually why I changed location a bit, because I wanted it to be visible. So it's like just the edges of it. All right, let's see what smart bad bangs me has to say. Not that these bangs are like incredible, but wow, these are bad. Let's go.
If we're going to be talking to people who went through PTSD or live with a certain neurodiversity that they might not always feel comfortable telling people about, then we're going to be giving them the space to say, this is not shameful.
Yeah.
And with the same value of, there's no reason to be ashamed of being human in the context of mental health, in the context of learning how your brain works and how you can get better with it. It's not shameful for me to be making mistakes.
I agree.
think it's important that I don't only acknowledge these mistakes, because mistakes will be done, whether I tell you about it or not. And
That's
I think a lot of times when people say, like, why are you talking about your mistakes? They're not necessarily saying, why are you doing those mistakes? Some do. But they're saying, why do you put your dirty laundry out for everybody to see? That makes a situation where they can know that you're making a mistake. And that's shameful.
Small note, another reason for putting all of your dirty laundry out there is oversharing. And oftentimes I would hide the fact that I just overshared and this was not a controlled thing, with the idea of, I have no shame, but it's just, it was too quiet and I needed to say something. And the only thing that I could say was embarrassing. So I had no control and it just came out. I think more often than not, it's quirky, or at least I see it as such. I definitely am doing better once I realized I had ADHD and I started getting medicated. But maybe it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to overshare, or it's okay to share your mistakes. But it's also okay, in my personal opinion, to say you're sharing because you really want to not have shame, rather than admitting to the fact that you did not want to share this. Because definitely has been the case for me more often than I'd like to admit.
And that's shameful. But it's not. And maybe it's something for me within myself. And part of the process of making this podcast is for me to be managing my vices.
Yeah. And one of them is that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is not to say that everything I put out there is perfect.
It's really not,
but
it's
that
good.
I
It's good,
ruminate over mistakes and I try to hide them, historically at least. As I grow, as I get older, this is something I absolutely try to eliminate.
I give myself
I try to be
very good
aware
advice.
of my mistakes, which has not always been the case, and I try to not carry this shame with me. And the first part of not carrying the shame with you is proudly carrying it right here.
Oh, in my heart.
Telling you guys, listen, I did not
Was it in my heart or was
think
it
about
I
making
think it was,
graphics
like,
for these
on your
episodes.
sleeve.
That
It
was
was
a
meant to be
mistake.
on your sleeve.
I need to think about how this entire thing can look a bit more professional. I need to be spending more time talking to you on social media directly
I need to
in the
give it some
pages
time
or
just to not have
just
that.
one-on-one with people who matter, who've had the bad luck of being on the other side of this, of having me not do that, not communicate with them, despite them definitely being owed communication.
I'm sorry.
I apologize because this was a mistake. And it doesn't mean I'm not sorry for this, but I will not be ashamed of making mistakes. I will take them and I will grow. And I hope that
I like it.
doesn't turn you all off, because if I'm honest, I'm going to keep making mistakes. And I'm going to be talking about them if I think it's relevant, if I think it's interesting, if it's something that you can help me make better. I'm going to say it out loud so that you can come and say, no, I don't like this. I think you should do it differently. Otherwise, I'm not being agile. I'm not standing up to the standards that I'm very clearly trying to communicate with this podcast. And lastly, I'm introducing shame into something that is so natural.
Not shamed.
So I hope this helped, or I hope it was interesting to get a bit of a peek into why certain things are being done a certain way, why I chose to do these things a certain way.
Oh, wow. I was intending on completely making fun of myself before I started this reaction. Even when I was editing this, I found so many things so ridiculous. And I still do. I think a lot of the way that I'm communicating is really bad, and I hope I'm getting better at it. And I'm absolutely sure that I can get even better. But this was a bit painful, again, kind of mixed with the fact that I always watch everything like 2 times the speed, or like 1.5 for like people that do speak in a decent speed. I did not want to be one of those people that speaks really, really slow. And apparently I am, at least sometimes. So let me know what you think. Like, is it extremely slow? Am I getting it right? Or is it like normal? I don't know. Would love your insight. Do you hear that I'm getting tired? I feel like I'm doing the same thing that I did when I recorded that. So I had an idea and I really wanted to record it, and I was procrastinating, and then midnight came and I was like, oh my God, I can't finish this day without having something, like some progress here. And I sit down and I record, and every step takes me like 3 or 4 or 10 takes. I'm not taking takes here. This is more of a, I'm going to cut down all of the irrelevant parts. But yeah, I think I'm just about to kind of sum this up, and I'm really happy about this episode. So it was honestly my intent when I came here to absolutely shred this video and make fun of everything, because so much of it feels so ridiculous for me right now. But I like that I put it out there. I like that I had this thought, and I remember going through so many conversations that led to me really pinpointing these 3 points. Not a fan of how I did it, but that being said, I am proud that I put this out, and I am happy that I finally edited it so that it can come out. I'm going to actually set it as its own episode as well as here with my reaction. I think I give extra value here that I may have not done because I didn't have the insights, or because I was so tired that I could not finish my sentences. So even though this was not the best roasting, maybe, I do think it's a decent episode. I hope you like it.
I'm really looking forward to hearing from you what you did like, what you didn't like, what's the difference between like what I do today besides like being hurt versus what I did in that episode. I can tell you that one trick that I was doing in that video is that I had my table set to standing mode because then I could actually stay awake. But as you can see, it didn't really work. So learning from mistakes, it's better to have more fun with like your environment or find a different way to stay awake, like a bunch of Earl Grey tea or whatever. I am growing. I am being agile. Oh my god, I'm abusing that word so much. This is a very bad summary. Let old me finish this episode. I think she did a good job. Way to go. And with that being said, if you've reached this far, I just want to say thank you. Again, let me know if you want more of these sort of episodes, kind of talking about why I do certain things or how I took certain aspects of conversation, something a bit more of like my insights and me kind of pinpointing my thoughts directly to you. Let me know if that was something that you enjoyed. And with that being said, stay odd and have a great day.